Imagine a sweltering morning on August 15th, 1528, in the heart of London. You are a young and successful merchant who has just woken up in your spacious home in the prestigious city district. You feel perfectly healthy, full of vitality, and ready to strike lucrative deals at the market. However, you don't yet know that an invisible killer has already infiltrated your lungs during yesterday's walk along the bustling Thames embankment. In just 10 hours, your robust body will turn into a blazing furnace, constantly oozing foul-smelling sweat. Late into the night, your terrified loved ones will frantically board up the windows, hurriedly preparing a burial shroud for you. This mysterious and merciless infection went down in history under the medical name Anglicus sudor. In the 16th century, the people of the Kingdom of England simply called it Henry VIII's black sweating sickness. The main characteristic of this dreadful ailment was its lightning-fast and utterly unpredictable course. A healthy person might be happily dining with friends, only to have their lifeless body hurriedly carried out of the house by dinner time. Fear of this invisible contagion paralyzed the entire country, forcing kings and the poor alike to flee in panic into the deepest forests. We will trace the entire journey of a medieval patient, from the first moments of mild discomfort to the final breath before death. You'll discover exactly what sounds, smells, and tactile sensations surrounded the dying in the cramped rooms of old London. The unfolding of this historical nightmare was meticulously documented by eyewitnesses who left behind chilling accounts. Prepare to discover why you would have had virtually no chance of survival in August 1528. The sweating sickness spared no one in its path, yet for some reason it targeted the strongest and wealthiest city dwellers. Today's narrative is based on actual medical treatises, chronicles, and personal letters from that distant and harsh era. We'll reconstruct the precise chronology of events that shook the very foundations of English society and completely upended the monarch's own plans. Every detail of this video will make you literally feel the sticky, suffocating heat of those closed rooms on your skin. Cities emptied out in a matter of days, leaving their dark streets to be torn apart by stray dogs and looters. Church bells rang without ceasing, mournfully tolling for hundreds of unfortunate townspeople every single day. Modern science is still grappling with the unsolved mystery of the origin of this deadly and rapidly spreading pathogen. In this video, we'll take a detailed look at the main theories put forward by scientists, including the theory about the dangerous and insidious hantavirus. You'll see how the absurd medical advice of the time turned the bed of an unfortunate patient into a veritable gas chamber. Sit back, get comfortable, and prepare for an unforgettable journey into the darkest and most terrifying year of the famous Tudor dynasty's reign. The time has come to open the heavy oak door to the bedroom of a 16th century London merchant and face an invisible killer. The London summer of 1528 was unusually hot, stifling, and filled with heavy marsh fumes. The mighty River Thames had receded significantly, exposing the rotting waste and filth of the vast trading city. You stand in the middle of your well-stocked shop in the city, carefully counting bales of expensive wool and barrels of imported wine. The thick city air reeks of tar, exotic spices, and the unwashed bodies of hundreds of people passing by. Suddenly, amid this familiar bustle of work, you feel a strange, sudden, and very intense dizziness. The world around you momentarily loses its sharp contours and begins to slowly blur before your eyes. You frantically grab the oak edge of the counter with your hand to keep from falling onto the shop's dirty earthen floor. The surrounding sounds of the boisterous market suddenly become muffled, as if you've unexpectedly found yourself underwater. An insistent and extremely unpleasant ringing fills your ears, completely drowning out the voices of your loyal servants. You chalk it up to the intense midday heat and decide to sit down briefly on a wooden bench. However, the slight dizziness is rapidly replaced by a new, far more terrifying wave of physical agony. A sharp, icy chill that penetrates to the very bones suddenly replaces your momentary weakness. Your body begins to shake uncontrollably and incessantly, even though the street is sweltering in the unbearable August heat. You instinctively wrap yourself in your expensive merchant's caftan made of thick, fine cloth. Your teeth begin to chatter loudly and rapidly, making a dry staccato sound. The servants look at their young master with obvious surprise and growing fear as he turns pale right before their eyes. Your skin instantly breaks out in goosebumps, and your fingers turn icy and take on a bluish tint. In a hoarse voice, you order them to close the shop immediately, and help you up to the living quarters on the second floor. Every step up the steep wooden staircase is met with an unbearable aching pain in your knees and lower back. Your joints feel as if they're filled with heavy, hot lead, completely refusing to obey your will. You realize with horror that this is no ordinary cold that will easily pass in a few days. Like a frightened bird, terrifying stories flash through your mind about the black sweat that has been mercilessly mowing down neighbors on your street for a week now. Just recently, on August 12th, 1528, you laid your healthy young guild colleague to rest. That man burned to death in just a few hours, leaving behind a thriving shop and a young, inconsolable wife. Now this invisible and merciless enemy has reached even your wealthy, well-protected home. You lie helplessly on your spacious bed, hastily covering yourself with a heavy woolen blanket. The trembling inside your body grows so intense that the wooden frame of the bed begins to vibrate noticeably. Your young wife touches your forehead in alarm and immediately pulls her hand away from the unnatural, deathly cold. She orders the maid in a loud voice to immediately light a fire in the fireplace and bring hot stones to warm your feet. You close your eyes, trying in vain to warm yourself beneath a mountain of thick winter merchant's clothing. However, this ice inside your blood vessels is merely a prelude to a true anatomical nightmare. Half an hour later, the bone-chilling shiver stops just as suddenly, giving way to its fiery opposite. The Arctic cold is replaced by a scorching heat rising from the very depths of your inflamed lungs. It feels as though all the blood in your veins has turned into boiling oil, mercilessly burning your blood vessels from the inside. You try to throw off the heavy blankets, but your strict wife immediately puts them back where they were. In medieval London, every resident knows that letting a sick person get cold means their immediate death. You are forced to endure this unbearable torment, suffocating in the cramped and stifling confines of a wooden bedroom. The first large drops of thick, sticky sweat begin to rapidly form on your steaming skin. This sweat appears simultaneously on your forehead, chest, palms, and underarms. It pours out in such vast quantities that your thin linen shirt becomes soaked instantly. The liquid flows down your body in a continuous stream, running into your eyes and soaking the bed's straw mattress. The bedroom rapidly fills with a strange, pungent, and very unpleasant sour smell. This distinctive scent of biological decay will be your constant companion for the next few hours. Your heart begins to pound wildly and rhythmically in your chest, beating more than 150 times per minute. You can clearly hear this dull, rapid pounding in your inflamed and congested ears. Your pulse becomes so powerful that the carotid artery in your neck swells and throbs noticeably. You're desperately short of breath. You frantically open your mouth, like a fish washed ashore. It feels as though your ribcage has been squeezed by a heavy iron band, completely preventing you from taking a deep breath. Your tongue instantly dries up from the heat, turning into a stiff piece of rough, cracked skin. You try to ask your weeping wife, in a hoarse voice, for at least one sip of clean, cool water. However, she merely shakes her head sadly and wipes away her tears with the dry edge of her bonnet. The thirst becomes truly unbearable, completely overshadowing all other physical sufferings of this dreadful day. Your consciousness begins to slowly fade, plunging your exhausted mind into the first terrifying waves of feverish delirium. To fully grasp the scale of the tragedy, we must briefly return to the historical past of the English kingdom, something entirely new to the inhabitants of foggy Albion in 1528. This deadly and rapid onset pathogen in 1485. On August 22, 1485, the famous Battle of Bosworth took place. The course of history. The victorious troops of Henry VII Tudor entered a silent London, bringing with them a debilitating plague. The first epidemic broke out among the exhausted soldiers and instantly spread to the capital's civilians. Within a few weeks, the disease claimed the lives of 2 mayors of London and 6 esteemed city aldermen. People were dying by the thousands, completely unaware of the true causes of this sudden and terrible wrath of God. The doctors of that time were utterly powerless in the face of such a rapid and incomprehensible plague. The coronation of the new monarch, Henry VII, was even postponed due to the terrifying death toll among the nobility. By the end of the damp autumn of 1485, the first wave had subsided, leaving behind devastated homes. The insidious English sweat returned a second time, 23 years later, during the summer months of 1508. This outbreak was less widespread, but caused no less panic among the terrified population. Once again, the infection struck primarily young, strong, and healthy men in the prime of their lives. The elderly, women, and young children suffered from this ailment much less frequently, and with milder symptoms. Scholars still debate why the pathogen targeted the very flower of society. The disease vanished as suddenly as it had appeared, leaving the royal physicians utterly baffled. Our fateful summer of 1528 marked the beginning of the third and most brutal epidemic. To fast forward a bit, let's say that England endured a total of 5 devastating waves of this Black Death. The fourth outbreak would sweep across the country in 1551, becoming yet another severe ordeal for the subjects. The fifth and final wave was recorded in that same year, 1551, after which the disease disappeared. It faded forever into history, leaving behind only terrible memories and mysteries. Over all these long years, the sweating sickness has almost never spread beyond England. Only once, during the third wave, did the infection briefly spread to the European continent. It struck Germany, the Netherlands, and Scandinavia with devastating force, causing genuine geopolitical panic there. The German principalities hastily closed their borders, imposing the strictest quarantine on all ships. However, in England itself, in 1528, the situation was most catastrophic and utterly hopeless. In just 2 weeks of that sweltering August, more than 2,000 people died in London alone. The distinctive feature of Tudor England was the incredible speed with which it ravaged a healthy human body. From the onset of the very first symptoms to the victim's final death, it took between 3 and 18 hours. If a patient managed to survive the first critical 24 hours, they usually made a full recovery. They developed short-term immunity, which, however, did not protect them from reinfection. Some unfortunate Londoners managed to endure this nightmare 3 times during a single epidemic. With each new infection, their exhausted bodies suffered more severely and agonizingly. You lie helplessly in your bed in the city, a part of these terrifying historical statistics. At 28 years old, your young and strong body has become the perfect target for the virus. It is as if the disease deliberately feeds on the life force of the finest men. Around your home, the familiar bustle of the city gradually fades, giving way to the ominous silence of the plague. The market stalls are closed, as vendors and shoppers are either dead or have fled. All that can be heard are the distant cries of frightened people and the monotonous clatter of the undertaker's carts. Modern researchers have put forward many different theories about the true biological nature of this mysterious pathogen. The most popular and scientifically sound theory to date is that it is a specific hantavirus. These dangerous viruses are usually carried by small rodents, such as field mice and rats. In the filthy and overcrowded London of the 16th century, rodents were abundant in every home. The wool, grain, and imported fabrics in your merchant's shop provided them with an ideal hiding place. Perhaps it was there that you inhaled the deadly dust containing viral particles. Other scientists have plausibly suggested that a specific mutated form of influenza may have been the cause of the plague. They point to the rapid onset of respiratory failure and the infection's extremely high contagiousness. However, no modern theory can fully explain the striking selectivity of this virus. The sweating sickness left behind no skeletal remains or preserved ancient DNA. We can only judge it by the textual descriptions from eyewitnesses that have survived to this day. These texts paint a terrifying picture of absolute chaos that engulfed all strata of English society. You can clearly feel this historical killer slowly sapping your last vestiges of vitality. Drops of foul-smelling sweat continue to stream down your face, staining the expensive linen fabric. Every few minutes, your pulse quickens, forcing your exhausted chest to heave more and more frequently and heavily. The timeline of the epidemic marches inexorably forward, bringing your body closer to the critical threshold of death. At the very same time, far beyond the borders of London, another historical drama is unfolding. The most powerful people in the English kingdom are trying in vain to escape this invisible punishment. Fear of the Black Death completely erased all class distinctions and social barriers. When the first cases of the disease were recorded at court in June 1528, widespread panic ensued. King Henry VIII Tudor, renowned for his athletic build, was seized by a truly primal terror. He was terrified of any disease, and especially of this rapid, unpredictable Black Death. The monarch immediately ordered the dismissal of most of his court and numerous servants. He himself decided to flee hastily from the infected capital in search of a safe haven. The royal flight quickly turned into a chaotic and exhausting journey across southern England. Henry VIII moved from one of his country palaces and castles to another every few days without warning. He was terrified that the plague had already spread to the clothing of his closest associates. The monarch would shut himself away in remote rooms, spending long hours in solitary prayer for salvation. Only a handful of his most trusted physicians and loyal servants traveled with him. The king personally prepared prescriptions for medicinal concoctions, mixing various herbs and crushed pearls. However, even his exalted royal status offered no absolute guarantee of safety from the pathogen. At the very same time, the kingdom's chief minister, Cardinal Thomas Wolsey, was taking his own measures. This powerful prelate, who effectively ruled the entire country, hastily left his luxurious palace. He fled London, surrounding himself with the strictest sanitary cordon of armed guards. Cardinal Wolsey moved from one monastery to another, frantically avoiding any contact with the townspeople. His letters to the king from that period are filled with complaints of constant fear and despondency. The great politician proved just as helpless in the face of this microscopic enemy as everyone else. However, the most dramatic story of that summer revolved around the king's mistress, Anne Boleyn. In mid-June 1528, this young woman suddenly felt the first signs of illness. Upon learning of this, Henry VIII was horrified and immediately sent her away from the capital. Anne Boleyn left for her ancestral home, the secluded castle of Hever, in the county of Kent. There, behind thick stone walls, the disease overtook her with all its primal cruelty. The news of his beloved's illness reached the king during yet another hasty journey. He did not dare to go to her himself, terrified of contracting the deadly English plague. Instead, Henry VIII sent his personal physician, Dr. Chamber, to Hever Castle. Anne Boleyn hovered between life and death for a long 20 hours. Her body exuded the same sharp, sour sweat as that of thousands of the dying. Her youth and strong immune system helped this future queen pull off a true miracle. She survived, forever remembering the suffocating heat of that fateful year, 1528. While the kingdom's elite fled for their lives, ordinary Londoners were left to fend for themselves. In the city, where your home is located, the situation worsened with every passing hour of that dreadful August. Wealthy merchants tried to shut themselves away in their stone mansions, completely isolating themselves from the outside world. They stocked up on food for weeks in advance, refusing to open their doors even to close relatives. The poor, meanwhile, were dying right on the filthy cobblestones. Unable to afford doctors, the city was gradually sinking into an atmosphere of apocalypse and widespread mutual distrust. You lie helplessly in your bed, hearing out of the corner of your ear the frightened whispers of the servants behind the door. They are quietly discussing how Cardinal Wolsey himself has fled, and the king is hiding in a distant castle. This news finally robs you of your last shred of hope for a favorable outcome to your illness. If even the most powerful people in the country are trembling with fear, what is a mere merchant to do? The chills have finally subsided, and now you are completely at the mercy of a scorching fever. The linen sheets beneath you are literally soaked through with profuse sweat. The timeline of your illness has firmly passed the 4-hour mark since the first symptoms appeared. This is the most dangerous period, when most patients fall into a deep and dark unconsciousness. Your heart continues to pound at a frantic pace, exhausting the heart muscle of your young body. You feel the throbbing in your temples turn into a continuous, heavy pounding. Your breathing becomes increasingly shallow, short, and wheezy due to severe pulmonary edema. Your wife constantly changes the damp cloths on your burning forehead, but it brings no relief. The pungent smell of sour vapors in the bedroom becomes so unbearable that the maid starts coughing. This smell is a sure sign that the virus has completely taken over your body. Toxins are destroying cells, forcing your excretory system to work at the limits of human capacity. Medieval medicine regarded this sweat as the body's purification from harmful and putrid fluids. In reality, however, it was a manifestation of a severe state of shock and systemic inflammation. Your brain, suffering from a lack of oxygen, begins to conjure up strange and frightening images. Before your eyes, silhouettes of merchant ships appear, sinking in a stormy, dark sea. You scream loudly in your delirium, trying to save your non-existent cargo from an invisible flame. Your wife holds your hand tightly, begging you to calm down and not throw off the blanket. At that moment, a man knocks on your door, a man whose advice will determine your fate. He is a local physician, armed with the most advanced medical knowledge of the early 16th century. His arrival is supposed to bring salvation, but in reality, it will only make your situation worse. Henry VIII's sweating sickness possessed a remarkable and terrifying selectivity in choosing its victims. Unlike the bubonic plague, it virtually spared emaciated beggars and frail old people. The primary targets of this invisible killer were young men between the ages of 25 and 35. These were the strongest, best-fed, and most prosperous members of English society at the time. Merchants, nobles, young priests, and wealthy artisans were the first to die. Modern virologists explain this phenomenon with the term cytokine storm, in which a strong immune system destroys itself. A young man's strong immune system reacted too violently and aggressively to the new virus. The body released a massive amount of defensive proteins that attacked its own tissues, leading to immediate damage to the blood vessels. This is precisely why patients develop that famous profuse sweat with its distinctive odor. The lungs rapidly filled with fluid, causing suffocation and a severe lack of oxygen throughout the body. The heart was forced to work itself to the bone, trying to pump blood that was thickening due to fluid loss. Thus, it was precisely the strength and health of the Tudor men that led to their downfall. The chronology of the symptoms' progression was recorded by English chroniclers with striking and frightening precision. The first hour of the illness brought only mild dizziness, a dull headache, and sudden weakness. In the second hour, excruciating chills set in, causing people to shiver even under thick quilts. The third hour was marked by a transition to scorching heat and the onset of intense sweating all over the body. By the fifth hour, the patient usually sank into a severe delirium, losing all connection with reality. If the patient had not died of cardiac arrest by the eighth hour, a critical moment would set in. Toxic shock would destroy the internal organs, causing kidney failure and cerebral edema. A continuous moan filled the dying patient's room, interrupted only by labored, raspy breathing. The victim's face turned crimson or bluish due to a catastrophic lack of oxygen. Relatives could only watch helplessly as this living person underwent this rapid and horrific transformation. You are going through all these terrifying anatomical stages right now, lying in your bedroom. Your heart is pounding so hard, it feels as if it's about to burst through your ribs. Sticky, sour sweat streams into your eyes, blurring the silhouettes of the people standing by your bed. Your mind teeters on the edge between reality and the terrifying figments of feverish, inflamed delirium. You feel as if invisible pincers are squeezing your throat, preventing you from taking even a short breath. Every minute of this August day turns into endless and brutal torture for your body. The distinctive smell of your sweat has already permeated not only the sheets, but also the wooden walls of the room. To those around him, this scent was reminiscent of sour beer, rotten meat, and old cheese all at once. It clung to the clothes of those nearby, causing them to shudder with horror and revulsion. Your wife frantically burns fragrant herbs in the fireplace, trying to mask this ominous stench of death. However, the dry smoke of juniper only intensifies the suffocation, causing you to cough and gasp for air. Medieval doctors of the 16th century had not the slightest idea of the existence of microbes or viruses. They attributed this sweaty illness to an imbalance of the four humors in the human body. In their view, too much putrid and corrupted phlegm had accumulated in the merchant's body. The summer heat had caused this dangerous fluid to boil, and it was now trying to escape through the pores. Based on this false theory, doctors devised their treatment strategy for the unfortunate patients. The physician who enters your bedroom carefully examines your throbbing pulse and the color of your skin. He nods his head with satisfaction upon seeing copious streams of fluid running down your body. In his opinion, this process of expelling toxins must not be interfered with under any circumstances. The doctor forbids your wife from wiping your face with cool water or changing your damp shirt. He believes that fresh air will close your pores and drive the deadly phlegm back into your body. You find yourself a hostage to the terrible medical misconceptions of your cruel and dark era. The external noise of the city of London finally dies down, giving way to the ominous silence of the Great Plague. Only the occasional toll of the bell from the neighboring church of St. Michael breaks this oppressive silence of 1528. Each toll signifies that yet another respectable citizen has ended his earthly journey. You realize that your shop, your goods, and your gold no longer matter at all. Your life now depends solely on whether your heart can hold out for the next few hours. Time is relentlessly counting down the 7th hour since your sudden morning illness. The thirst inside you reaches its peak, turning your throat into a desert ablaze with fire. You're ready to give up all your ships for a single sip of pure well water. The physician, meanwhile, pulls out his primary medical treatise, written by a renowned scholar of the time. The advice in this book will be your final and merciless sentence. Later, in 1552, the renowned English physician Thomas Caius would publish his famous medical treatise. This book would describe in detail the rules of conduct and treatment for an outbreak of the English sweating sickness. However, the basic principles of this deadly treatment were already being practiced by doctors during our epidemic of 1528. Dr. Caius's main rule was to ensure absolute and continuous warmth for the patient. The patient was to take to bed immediately, without removing their everyday outer garments. The physician orders the servants to cover you with 3 heavy woolen blankets over your woolen caftan. A down comforter is placed on top to completely prevent even the slightest chill from reaching the body. The doctor strictly forbids opening the bedroom windows, despite the stifling 30-degree August heat outside. In his opinion, even a slight draft is capable of instantly killing a person by closing their open pores. The room turns into an airtight, scorching furnace, where the air becomes thick and palpable. You begin to literally simmer in your own foul-smelling sweat, losing your last reserves of strength. The next important tenet of Thomas Caius's treatment was a complete ban on all food and drink. A patient suffering from convulsions was strictly forbidden to be given water during the first 24 hours of the fever. Doctors believed that any external liquid diluted the internal poisons and spread them throughout the organs. Your inhuman thirst is declared by the doctor to be a saving sign that the bad phlegm is drying up. You beg for a drop of moisture, but your wife merely obeys the cruel orders of the authoritative doctor. Your body is rapidly losing water. Your blood thickens, turning into a viscous, dark mass. The thickened blood moves with great difficulty through your vessels, placing a colossal strain on your heart. The tachycardia intensifies. The heartbeats become muffled and irregular, foreshadowing the imminent failure of this vital organ. The physician, however, considers this frantic pulse a sign of the life force's successful battle against an invisible pathogen. He forbids you from changing your body position, forcing you to lie motionless on your back for hours on end. Any movement beneath the mountain of blankets is perceived as a dangerous attempt to cool your overheated body. If the patient tried to break free or throw off the quilt in a delirium, the servants would hold him down by force. You are pressed firmly against the mattress by 4 pairs of strong hands belonging to your former loyal servants. You gasp for breath, trying to appeal to their reason and compassion, but fear has paralyzed these men. They fear that if you grow cold and die, the contagion will immediately spread to them. This deadly medical trap claimed the lives of thousands of strong men throughout England. In 1528, Tudor medicine effectively aided the virus in killing the kingdom's strongest and healthiest citizens. The timeline of your suffering is approaching the fateful 10-hour mark since the onset of the fever. Your skin feels dry to the touch, despite the constant secretion of sticky, filthy moisture. Your eyes are sunken, dark circles appear around them, and your lips are cracked and bleeding from dehydration. Your mind finally abandons you, plunging your consciousness into a ceaseless whirl of nightmarish visions. You no longer understand where you are, or who these weeping people around your bed are. Thomas Caius noted in his writings that falling asleep during a fever is the most dangerous harbinger of death. The physician begins to strike you painfully on the cheeks and shout directly into your ear, trying to keep you conscious. In his opinion, if a patient falls asleep at this critical moment, they will never wake up again. They won't let you close your eyes for even a second, inflicting additional physical suffering on your exhausted body. This nightmare lasts for hours, accompanied by the monotonous muttering of Latin prayers by a priest who has been summoned. The priest sprinkles holy water on your damp blankets. It evaporates instantly, mingling with the stench. The scent of holy oil for anointing blends with the pungent aroma of your profuse sweat. The city's room is filled with the heavy atmosphere of the young merchant's imminent and inevitable burial. The physician takes his payment in gold coins from your table and hurriedly leaves the house, fearing infection. He has done everything prescribed by 16th century medicine and washes his hands in the face of the inevitable. Now you are left alone with your strong but dying heart. Every few minutes, your breathing is interrupted by long pauses, terrifying your wife, who stands frozen in the corner. Pulmonary edema has reached a critical stage, and a distinct gurgling sound can be heard in your chest. Almost no oxygen is reaching your blood. Your palms and feet are taking on a dark bluish tint. Your body is running on the last drops of vital energy accumulated over years of a comfortable and prosperous life. The course of the epidemic is mercilessly claiming yet another young life from London's population registry. Time seems to slow its pace in this stuffy, locked merchant's bedroom. You find yourself at the very heart of the Great Plague of 1528, having become its latest silent victim. No one will come to your aid, for the neighboring houses are enduring exactly the same tragedy. Beyond the walls of your mansion, a dark August night is falling, bringing temporary relief to the deserted streets. For you, however, this night will be the final threshold that your body is unlikely to cross. The epidemic of the English sweat in August 1528 turned thriving London into a veritable hell. In just 14 days, more than 2,000 wealthy citizens perished in the city. Life in the city came to a complete standstill, halting trade, the courts, and all public gatherings. Magistrates and officials fled City Hall, abandoning their important government duties and documents. The city's markets emptied, causing a severe food shortage and panic among the remaining poor. Death walked the streets openly, knocking on the doors of every wealthy mansion. The chronology of this terrible two-week plague will forever remain a dark chapter in the history of the English capital. Every morning, wooden carts drove through the streets of the city, collecting the lifeless bodies of the townspeople. Undertakers could not keep up with making wooden coffins, and the dead were buried in simple shrouds made of coarse canvas. The church cemeteries were overflowing within the first 3 days, forcing the digging of huge mass graves outside the city limits. The ground could not absorb the hundreds of new corpses fast enough, and a heavy stench of decay hung over London. The sound of the ceaseless funeral tolling of the bells drove the surviving residents mad. You've now passed the 14-hour mark since your fever began on that fateful morning. Your heart beats its final, heaviest, and most infrequent beats within your exhausted chest. Thick, sour sweat no longer flows, as your body has completely depleted its reserves of internal moisture. Your face takes on a pale, almost waxy hue, and your breathing becomes barely perceptible to those around you. Your wife presses a mirror to your lips, hoping to see a faint trace of warm vapor. However, the glass remains absolutely clear and transparent in her hands, trembling with grief. Your earthly timeline comes to an end here, in the stifling bedroom of the 1528 mansion. You died at the age of 28, before you could leave heirs to your wealthy merchant dynasty. Physician Thomas Caius would have called this outcome a natural consequence of an imbalance in the body's harmful humors. In reality, however, you were killed by an aggressive hantavirus and the barbaric medical practices of the time. The unfortunate merchant's body is wrapped in sheets that still reek of that very deadly sweat. The servants hurriedly carry you out through the back door, afraid to touch the cooling flesh. Your gold, your shop, and your expensive woolen fabrics will fall into the hands of looters or distant relatives. Your wife hastily leaves the deserted house, fleeing to a remote province far from dreadful London. The mansion is boarded up with heavy planks, leaving it in the company of the city's silent emptiness. You become just another nameless statistic in the grim tally of the Great August Plague. The epidemic of 1528 subsided as suddenly as it had begun. In early September, the invisible pathogen seemed to have sated itself on the lives of young Englishmen and temporarily retreated to its secret lairs. King Henry VIII Tudor returned to his palace in the capital, breathing a huge sigh of relief. He immediately resumed his plans to annul his marriage to the aging Queen Catherine of Aragon. Anne Boleyn, having fully recovered at Hever Castle, once again took her place of honor beside the monarch. Life in the city of London began to slowly return to normal after those 2 weeks of horror. Shops were reopening, new ships laden with spices were arriving, and street vendors were once again shouting their wares. New young merchants were moving into the vacant houses, hoping to replicate the success of their fallen predecessors. Fear was gradually fading, giving way to everyday concerns and the pursuit of wealth. Human memory is short, especially when it comes to invisible and incomprehensible causes of death. However, this plague left a deep mark on the collective subconscious of all of 16th century Tudor England. People continued to wait in terror for the return of the Black Sweat every hot and stifling summer. Looking ahead, let us recall that the disease returned twice more before disappearing for good. Each new outbreak triggered the same panicked flights of kings and ministers from the capital. Over all those decades, medicine had not advanced a single step in understanding the nature of Tudor Anglicus. Doctors continued to board up windows and wrap the unfortunate patients in heavy quilts. If you had been in that merchant's place, your chances of survival would have been virtually zero. In 1528, there were no antibiotics, no IVs to restore fluid balance, and no ventilators. You would have been completely defenseless in the face of rapid systemic inflammation and dehydration. Your own robust health would have become your greatest and most ruthless enemy in this battle. And Dr. Thomas Caius's advanced advice would have guaranteed a 100% fatality rate. Our detailed analysis of the anatomy of this disease reveals just how fragile human life was in centuries past. History allows us to vividly sense the clammy heat and suffocating atmosphere of the closed bedrooms of old London. We can hear the clatter of the undertaker's carts and the rapid pulse of a dying man in the darkness. These historical facts compel us to take a fresh look at the benefits of modern medicine and hygiene. Our journey into the depths of 1528 is drawing to its logical and inevitable conclusion. Henry VIII's English sweating sickness remains one of the most intriguing and terrifying mysteries in the history of world medicine. Appearing out of nowhere in 1485, it took its bloody toll and disappeared completely after 1551. Over the course of those 66 years, the pathogen claimed the lives of tens of thousands of young, strong, and healthy people. It radically altered the course of many political events, forcing kings to tremble and flee their own luxurious palaces. Today, we can study this nightmare only through dusty textual chronicles and rare medical treatises. A strict chronology of the 5 epidemics shows just how defenseless humanity was against the invisible biological threats of the past. We saw with our own eyes how an ordinary London merchant transformed from a thriving man into a lifeless body in just 12 hours. Detailed descriptions of tastes, smells, and tactile sensations helped us fully immerse ourselves in the atmosphere of August 1528. That sour smell of sweat and the stifling air of the city's locked rooms will forever remain symbols of the Tudor plague. The modern world has rid itself of this particular contagion, but we must never forget the lessons of the past. Science continues to search for answers by investigating possible natural reservoirs of this mysterious hantavirus. Like this video if you enjoyed our detailed chronological account of Henry VIII's sweating sickness. Be sure to write in the comments whether you personally could have survived those critical 24 hours in a stuffy bed in the city. Share this video with your friends who are genuinely interested in the mysteries of history and medieval medicine. Your feedback and ongoing engagement help us create even higher quality and more in-depth content. The chronology of human trials is full of such mysteries, waiting for a detailed and honest analysis. We bid you a warm farewell, leaving the stifling and frightened London of 1528 far behind in the mists of time. May the bells of St. Michael's Church never again toll for the unfortunate victims of Sudorum Anglicum. Take care of your health, sincerely appreciate the benefits of modern civilization, and always stay in touch with our channel. Ahead of us lie new historical periods, filled with their own unique sounds, smells, and great dramas.